Okay, good afternoon everybody, and welcome to our second live virtual experience. For all those who were here the month before, welcome back for something slightly different from what we had before. Again, from our first virtual experience, we come live from this beautiful studio, which is Skerritt Studios, one of 7 we've got in the whole building. So I guess throughout my morning's talk with you and what we're doing here, we'll kind of go through one or two little bits and pieces. I'm going to do some introductions shortly, but what I'd first like to say is hope that yourselves and loved ones are all well and fine. I'm pleased to be here with you all, as well as several members of staff that are kind of around who've made today possible. They've made today possible by the technology that we've got, that we're able to introduce, and also by our staff who have put everything on today, our teaching staff who are going to be with us, all of our support staff and all sorts, to bring you what is going to be a really, really good day. We're going to come from a few studios throughout the day. We're going to use our venue. We're going to be in the in here now, Skerritt Studios. We're going to be downstairs in the S3 studio. We've got a performance in a DJ booth, yeah, it's going to be an absolutely wonderful day, which we hope you enjoy. It's also a day for you, and it's a day which I encourage you to ask me any questions that you've got at the very end of the virtual open day today, which is about 2 hours. So all performances, and then at the very, very end, I'm going to be back downstairs in the venue answering any of your questions. So whatever you've got, please just type them into YouTube, and then they'll all get collated throughout the day, and then they'll get asked of me later on in the afternoon, and I can answer all of the questions that you got. So please keep them coming. So just quickly then, to just introduce myself first, my name is Adrian. I'm the principal of Skerritt Studios. I've been in post for just over a year, about 13-14 months. Prior to that, I was head of marketing, like most staff here, certainly all of our teaching staff and technology staff, I also produce music. I've also studied here. I did a 6-month evening course in electronic music, which probably was about 3 years ago now. Primarily that was kind of to learn more about what it was that we do, but also to learn to produce music, which was quite an eventful thing. But what I also learned here was the quality of what we've got, and the quality of our studios, the quality of all of our staff, and what kind of a special place this is. It's also been an odd place, tackling the elephant in the room, which is obviously for this last 5 months or so, we've obviously been in a very strange situation, a very difficult situation, and a very unprecedented situation for many, many people, and equally our students. We've had graduating students this year who have reached a point where normally they'd be graduating, but of course due to March all of that changed. We had students who were faced with all sorts of issues where they had to submit work and carry on with their education. So it's been quite difficult, but at the same time what we've also done is reacted really, really strongly. The feedback that we've had so far, of which there's been a lot of from students, has all been really, really positive. And again, it just goes further to sort of reinforce what especially our teaching and our technical staff have been able to provide at very short notice, to get everything online so that the quality of education continues. I'm actually determined to sort of make sure that that does continue, and some of the technology that we're using today on this virtual open day is demonstrating just exactly what we've got. And you'll see some of the techniques that we're using in terms of some of the way that we deliver it, the way that we switch our camera angles, the way that we are picking up sound right now, and filming and streaming right now. These are all going to demonstrate. I'm going to kind of talk a little bit more about that and about some of that technology in a bit. But continuing with the last few months, our position now in September is very, very clear. We are going to be delivering practical face-to-face teaching. Obviously, we have to do this where it is safe and permissible to do so. At the moment, it is. and we've made it safe. We've made some huge significant changes to this building in order to do so. But at the same time, we also recognise that not everybody may be able to come into the building. We have some people who can make that choice now with the technology that we've got, because every single piece of practical learning that we're delivering, we're also going to be delivering it online simultaneously, which means that and for those people, no one will be left behind, essentially. The technology that we're doing to use that is absolutely incredible. Some of it is off the shelf, that we're all probably quite used to over these last few months, which is technology that we're using like Zoom or Google Meets and so on and so forth. So things that we're all familiar with, but there's actually lots of other things which I know we're definitely on whole not familiar with, and some of those I'll be talking through those. So one big piece of information or equipment is this remote desktop technology that we're kind of utilizing, which essentially means that right now you are probably at home and you're on a laptop or you're on a computer right now, and you're watching me and you're watching us on YouTube, but you're watching us on a computer. We now have the technology for you to be able to use that same computer that is on your lap right now or on your desk to be able to access our machines inside this building right now as we speak. So I could have a live session open on Ableton, or I could be using one of our many plugs, and as a student you will have access to control our machine from home. It's incredible. It's absolutely brilliant. So you can be anywhere essentially on the planet, almost, and access all of our technology. So you wouldn't even need to have the DAW, for instance, on your own machine. You could write a piece of music from your living room using our machines. It's pretty crazy stuff. I'm sure now, after I've said that, there's going to be far more questions. We're proud to hold the moniker then of the first, or one of the first, audio engineering schools in the UK. And so these things that I've just described are continued ways that we continue to lead, where essentially we want others to follow. And we've been doing that for about 40 years. This year actually was our 40th year. And so what we had planned for this year, for our 40th year, were all sorts of bits and pieces, sort of in the building, outside of the building, with a lot of our industry partners. They've sort of slightly been on hold, but they will kick off again. Just want to very quickly then talk about what it is that we do. So obviously we are teachers of music education. We've got several degrees. We've got 2 new degrees this year: entrepreneurial audio production, which has just started in September. We've got electronic music production, we've got music production. I'm sure you've been on our website, so all of the information is all there to what we do. Very quickly then, back to the day. As I said, we've got 4 really, really smart presentations for you, all creative in their fields. If you've got any questions about each of those performances, then please do ask, and they will answer any questions. What plugs are you using? How did you write that piece of music? What equipment do you do? What's it like here? You know, what's the studio like? All sorts of bits of stuff. As I say, at the very end of all of the performances, which is about 2 hours time, I'm going to be around to answer all of your questions. It will be very sort of free flowing, so I'll probably be answering them more in depth than maybe you've wanted, but so that we can all kind of hear what they are. The building's open. If any of you would like to come into the building, you're more than welcome to come into the building. Not today, obviously, but we can plan it. An email address will be probably posted online quite soon, if not already, where you can get in contact with us and you can arrange to come and have a look around our studios. One member of staff will take you around, probably Dan, or might even be myself, but I'd be pleased to meet anybody that wanted to come in and carry on. I think we've got about a minute left, so I could say a lot more. Certainly I'm going to be back again in a little bit describing why I'm sat in front of this piano, and where this piano came from, and what some of the microphones that you can see behind us are, and a little bit more about this room as we sort of describe it. But I think that's about it. I think we're probably about 10 seconds or something, 15 seconds. So finally, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who's arrived here with us today virtually, and wish you the very best and a wonderful experience this afternoon. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us today. My name's Al. I'm I'm a producer, an engineer, one of the tutors here at Skerritt, and welcome to Skerritt Studio. So this is the main room. This is where we get our name from. You've seen a little bit of it already when Adrian was just chatting at the piano, but we've got some amazing equipment in here. Most notably, this huge Neve console. So I'm going to flip the camera angle around. There we go, so you can see it a little bit better. So yeah, this is a Neve VR Legend, and this is a very big desk. It's a bit of a beast, but yeah, we've got a few different sections which I'm going to be going through today. We're only actually needing to use a small part of this, but there are 48 faders across. So if you did want to record, you know, a symphony orchestra or like Blazing Squad or something, you've got enough channels to do that. We've also got this master section and some effects as well. In fact, I'll flip that round. So yeah, you can just see some stuff down here too. Some outboard gear, we've got some AMS stuff and some Roland effects too, plus some EQs and some compressors as well. Yeah, so there's a few extra bits and pieces which I'll get to as we progress. If you joined us for our last virtual experience, you will have seen Lewis in here doing a bit of a mix down. We're actually going to do some recording today. This is a wonderful room to mix in, but it's my favourite room to record in because of this wonderful desk as well. And so yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about the equipment as we get on. You'll have noticed the piano, which you can just see up there, and some of the microphones, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to pass you back over to Adrian now, who's just going to go over a little bit more information about the piano and just talk about some of the equipment that we've got in this room. So I'll switch over and yeah.
Okay, so hi again, back again. So yeah, like I said, I just wanted to run through a few little bits and pieces. So obviously I'm stood here and I sat earlier on at piano. This is a Yamaha Baby Grand piano, and it was given to us by the Royal Northern College of Music. It's given to us about 2 years ago, and given the fact that we're on the 4th floor of the building, it was quite some feat to actually get it up here, but we did. And here she is now, and it's a beautiful piece of equipment. The relationship that we've got, the Royal Northern College of Music, one of 5 Royal Conservatoires in the UK, is a really, really strong relationship. Like all of our partners, of which we've got lots, they provide us with the means to some exceptionally talented students of a whole variety of playing techniques and masterships and stuff. And what we've got here is this piano and Ben, who you can see, who is actually a student of the Royal Northern College of Music. He's doing a Masters starting in September, so a little bit more on that. We've got a few microphones here. We've got a pair of Neumann U87s and a pair of mics in the middle, a Neumann KM 184s and an SM57, and then just behind there you'll see just behind Ben, who's just ducked, a Neumann 147. Not the kind of mic you'd normally use for recording a piano over there, but Al will definitely sort of talk about some of these things. A little bit more about Ben. Ben is a classical contemporary composer. He's going to play a few things today, about 3 bits of pieces. Some of it will be quite traditional, some of it definitely not so much, and when Al will describe what that is. So that's about it. So I'm going to leave you back then with Al, and yeah, take it away. What, is it a take it away moment?
I think so.
Is it? What is it?
We're going to take it somewhere.
We're going to take it. Yeah, okay, brilliant. Right.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, as Adrian was saying, we've got yeah. Let me just check that. Yeah. So as Adrian was saying, we've got a few mics set up. I'm going to go into a bit more information about the techniques and what mics we're using, and then as we go through, I'll explain some of the stuff that's happening on the desk as well. So yeah, first things first. Let me just flip back over to Ben. So Ben is going to be playing piano and also being my lovely assistant today. Ben, could you point out the U87s for us? Cool. Yeah, so it's the 2 silver microphones. You can see one of them a bit, thank you very much. One of them's a bit closer to the front. There's another one kind of tucked just towards the back of the piano. So these 2 matching microphones, and they're large diaphragm condensers. They're a pretty legendary microphone, and they are fantastic for recording a lot of stuff. But piano is definitely one of them. The way we've got it set up at the moment is they're about a foot off the strings, and they're about 3 feet apart. And the one on the left, closest to Ben, that's going to be picking up the higher register of the piano. So that's over the higher strings. And then the other one is pointed over the lower strings, and this is called a technique called spaced pair. And what I can do is I'll flip you back around to here. So yeah, so what we're going to do is, Ben, do you want to just start playing some stuff? And I'm going to bring these microphones in, and we'll just give them a listen. Great stuff, thank you, man. Yeah, so that's one quite fairly standard microphone technique, and as Adrian said before, we're going to do some more conventional techniques, and then just sort of start to get a little bit weirder as well. So the next set of microphones we have set up, it's another really solid technique for recording a grand piano like this, or a baby grand like this. Then I'm going to flip back around. If you could just point out in the middle, the 184s. So these, like the U87s, these are condenser microphones. And condenser microphones are really great for picking up the details, so they're great on vocals, acoustic guitars, pianos as well. Unlike the U87s, which are these large diaphragm condensers. And the U87s, I'll just say I had them set to omni, so what that means is they're picking up sound all around the capsule. With the 184s, which are a little bit difficult to see, but they're kind of in the center of the piano, just sort of, yeah, pretty much bang in the middle. You probably can't see quite on the camera, but they're basically pointed like this. This is called XY, this configuration. So we've got one microphone which is facing this way with the capsules kind of next to each other, picking up the top end of the strings, kind of like the spaced pair. We've got one focused on that high end, and then another one which is facing this way, which is picking up the low end of the strings as well. So the other thing I want to show you for this is we're going to start introducing some effects. So how beautiful does this desk look, by the way? It's just amazing. So over here, you can see this guy. So this is a Lexicon reverb. This isn't actually the unit. This is just the controller. We've got the reverb housed in the machine room, which is just over to the back. We've also got a tape machine too. And so when Ben's playing on these microphones, I'm basically going to do a bit of a send. You can see a couple of lights on over in this section. We're going to send some of that signal over to the reverb in the machine room, and then I'm going to bring it back in on the desk. So Let's give a listen to these mics, and Ben, if you can start playing some stuff, and I'm just going to see if we can get some reverb coming in too. So reverb here, dry. Fantastic. So I just take this down. So yeah, so there's a little bit of the reverb we've got. We're going to start adding that to the rest of the stuff we do as well. So again, a kind of good traditional technique for recording piano and using some of the effects that we have in Skerritt too. There's a few more down here which I've alluded to, and we'll get to those in a moment. But the next thing I want to show you is just some stuff in Logic Pro. If I just flip around. So we have the session set up here now. We've just been playing through and using Logic in here, but we've not actually been recording as of yet. But this is kind of a setup that you would have. So you can see I've got my U87 mics here, my 184s down here, and then the next mic we're going to look at is this 147. So Ben, I'm going to flip back to you. Can you just point that 147 out, the tube mic? Yeah, so it's just the one behind there. This tube mic, this is a single microphone. As you could see with the others, we had a pair of mics, and that's because we were doing a stereo mic situation. Whereas this one, and as you can see in Logic 2, it's just the one channel for it. So whereas the others we would record two mics, with this we've just got this one channel down here. Now, the other day Ben was in, and we were having a bit of a jam and recording some stuff, and I was looking for a little bit of inspiration just to I don't know, take away and maybe come up with some stuff myself. Now, I play guitar, not a great keyboard player at all, and I had Ben in the room, and I was like, dude, can you just maybe play some chords for me, and I'm going to take them away and try and do something with it. So Ben played something in. Ben, do you just want to give us like a little demo of the kind of thing you were playing the other day? Cool. So Ben played in some really lovely chords, and I took those and dropped them into Logic. And so this is just a sort of slightly different thing that we've got. Didn't really know where I was going to go with it, but I decided to drop them in and see if I can make something slightly different. So like I say, not a keyboard player, but I had these great chords that Ben recorded. Let me just see if I can get some of this playing out for you guys. So what I've done here is take some of those chords and using Quick Sampler, just chop them up. So I've chopped those chords up in here and kind of rearranged them to make a new progression. And then from there, I did some extra processing, which I'll show you now. So I took that and kind of turned that, I changed the pitch and added a bunch of effects and turned it into this kind of thing, lowered the pitch a bit, added some crackle, some kind of spatial effects. You get the idea. So I took that and then yesterday was just messing around and kind of came up with this thing. So I'll show you sort of the idea. Just mute that. So, so totally different to the kind of stuff we've just been doing. And the reason I kind of wanted to show you that was, like I say, I'm not a piano player at all, but when you've got guys like Ben and other great musicians who are coming in, it's always worth just, you know, if you're recording some of their stuff, I always try and like to ask, you know, oh, I'm working on a project, could you maybe just put some piano down for me or some saxophone down for me? And as Adrian was mentioning before, we've got this connection to RNCM, and there's some fantastic musicians over there. And so when when you're a student, for me, when I was a student, I would need some practice recording stuff. The guys over there might want to record some of their stuff. You could maybe come to an arrangement where you might record them for free, but then you get a bunch of practice, especially using this kind of desk. And at the same time, you can maybe get them to record some stuff for you too. One of the guys that works here basically recorded an entire album doing that. He put everything together and did loads of recording sessions for people, and then basically got them to jump in and play on his stuff and made an album. So yeah, it's different to sort of the classical piano recording we were doing, but it's also a great way to use something like, you know, a single tube microphone, which I'll just flip back around to Ben, that one at the back. You wouldn't really want to do a nice traditional piano recording like that, because it's not going to pick up as much detail, but when you're going to sample it and turn it into something else, actually it becomes the kind of perfect way to do it if you have an end goal in mind. So the final piece we're going to do today is just something a little bit different. Not entirely sure how this is going to go, we'll find out. It's kind of a live jam with piano and some guitar pedals and a desk and some hardware. So we'll figure this out as we go. So I'm going to flip back over to Ben. Ben, can you point out the final microphone for us, please? Right, so this microphone in here, you can't really see it on the camera, but that's a Shure SM57. So for you guys that know a little bit about your microphones, you'll probably recognize the Shure SM57. It's like one of the most, it's probably the most ubiquitous microphone in the world. It's fantastic. It's a dynamic microphone. So unlike the others, which are condensers and the tube mic, this is really a microphone that you'd put on things like guitar amplifiers or like snare drums, things that can take, like, are going to have quite a lot of sound pressure to them. We've put it in a piano. In fact, not only on the piano, it's in one of the sound holes of the piano, because again, we're sort of, it's a more unconventional technique, but we're kind of going to try and process it in a slightly unconventional way. So Ben, if you could start playing, I'm just going to see if I can get some sound coming out. Yeah, so there you go. That's putting a piano through some effects. So yeah, this is just kind of like another way of maybe taking some things that you're more used to, like I'm more used to guitar pedals, and then trying something a little bit different. So maybe creating something like sort of a soundscape or something with a bit of ambience to it. Again, it's just a different way of approaching the recording process, really. So that pretty much wraps it up for what I'm going to be doing. We will be asking some questions shortly, and I'll be able to answer those for you. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much to Ben as well. And yeah, we're going to do some questions now. Cool. So cool. Here we go.
How do you find recording in an open plan studio?
Cool. So I'm not totally sure if you guys can hear the questions, so I'll just repeat them. So that was a question that was, how do you find recording in an open plan studio? That is a really great question, actually, because the first time I came up into Skerritt, I was like mesmerized by this desk. Felt like I was flying a spaceship. Didn't really know my way around it. But one of the things I found actually more challenging initially was not the console, but actually being in the same room as the musicians. Normally you've got a control room and then you have the live room as well. So you have this separation between the stuff that you're doing and the mixing, and then the musicians off in a separate room. And so like today is quite a good example of that, where while we may be able to push things like effects and stuff when we're not too concerned about picking them back up on the microphones and all this, having that dynamic, it's kind of a trade-off. So sometimes I like to be in the control room because I kind of have my space and I can really blast things and not worry about bothering the musicians. But at the same time, when you're doing something like this, especially with a pianist, you know, who you kind of want that sort of connection, and it's really nice to be able to see everything that you're doing in a real space. Working in a room like this is like my favorite thing to do. So it kind of depends on the situation, but this is such a fantastic space to be in. Hopefully you've got a bit of an idea of what it's like from some of the camera angles. Yeah, I love working in this space. So it's quite a long answer, but yeah, it's an amazing room.
Does the piano need to be booked out to be able to record it?
Cool. So the piano, actually, yeah, sorry, the question was, does the piano need to be booked out to record it? And no, the piano lives up here in Skerritt. So the way it will work is you'll get credits as a student and you'll be able to book different rooms, and Skerritt is comes with a bunch of the equipment. So like the desk obviously doesn't move, the piano actually stays up here too, and when you book Skerritt you'll have access to all of this equipment. Unfortunately we can't show you everything because there's a couple of things further back, but like I say, we've got a tape machine up here, there's a drum kit that lives up here, things like the microphones we've been using, they all live up here in Skerritt as well. So when you book Skerritt out, you'll be able to access all of this stuff as well.
What's the best recording technique / microphone for piano?
Cool. So what's the best recording technique or microphone for piano? Well, that was something that I was always I got quite hung up on, especially like when I was a student, because I was like, oh, I need to know, you know, what's the best way? I need to make sure I'm doing everything absolutely right. And kind of what I've learned is actually different techniques work for different things at different times, and I'll approach a piano differently each time I do it. So the last time I was in here recording was piano, and we were doing, I set up like a mid-side technique, which gets a beautiful stereo image, but things like spaced pair or the XY technique are really great for more traditional recordings. And hopefully what I showed you a little bit with some of the effects and maybe the sampling thing is actually even techniques that aren't necessarily great recording techniques can work really well if it's for a specific reason. So it's kind of the great thing about coming somewhere like Skerritt is I was always really encouraged to learn how to do things, you know, the right way, but also as soon as you know that, it's really important to experiment and try different things and just kind of get weird with it and sort of see what happens. And it's, yeah, so it's a question with many answers.
What effects are you using on the pedal board?
Oh, I was hoping someone was going to ask that question. So I'll flip round. So I've actually got a few things on here, but we're only using a few of them. And right before we were coming on, my Afterneath, which is this kind of crazy reverb pedal, started playing up. So maybe next time I'll be able to break this out. But we've got this Afterneath, which is an Earthquaker Devices pedal, which is like this insane reverb. I got, I think, at Christmas, and I'm still learning how to use it. Strymon El Capistan tape delay pedal, really wonderful delay pedal, and then a couple of extra effects. We were going through this MXR Dynacomp compressor and this MXR stereo chorus as well, and then I have 2 fuzz pedals because you need a lot of fuzz. This is an octave fuzz and a Big Muff Deluxe and a bit of overdrive too, and then a Badstone phase shifter as well. So yeah, a couple of different things, and then really quick on this side, we're actually just going through the Roland stereo flanger, which is this bad boy down here. But yeah, if we had a bit more time, we could have gone for maybe some more stuff. But we've got this chorus echo down here, and then some really great AMS delays and reverbs. Amazing outboard gear and the Lexicon reverb as well. So whole bunch of stuff really. Basically, whatever effects I can use, I'll use them.
I noticed that you've got some equipment on top of the mixer desk. Do you usually use that while mixing?
Which equipment, sorry? Is it?
He just said some other equipment on top of the mixer desk.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, it might be if you're referring to the pedals. Actually, this is basically just what I've brought in for today. So the desk basically looks kind of, this section looks just like this section, but I've just stuck a load of pedals on. We have the reverb up there as well, which lives there, and then this is actually just a this is for the cameras. So I know it looks like some really cool. It kind of looks like some kind of sampler, but it's not. It's just so I can do this. So yeah, but all this hardware and stuff down here, this all lives in Skerritt. So you'd access this stuff by using the patch bay, but that's a whole other presentation. Cool. All right, guys, thank you so much. This has been really fun. I hope you've enjoyed it. Cool, and we're just going to say thank you to Ben as well before I forget. So take a bow. Very nice, cool. Yeah, so yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that. And yeah, we're going to just go to a quick break. Oh, still learning. We're going to jump to Adrian, in fact. Here we go.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Very, very much. Thank you. I could sit all day and just listen, and which I probably will actually in a little bit of a while. Thank you also to Alan. Hopefully everybody has enjoyed that. So just as I said, we're going to go next, and we're going to move along a few things. So say today we've got Aaron in the S3. He's kind of composing some music. He's looking at this from kind of like an entrepreneurial perspective, which kind of mirrors our new entrepreneurial audio production degree. We've got Danni Skerritt, who's going to be doing a live set in one of our DJ booths, which is kind of looking at sort of electronic music and the performance aspect of electronic music. We've got Lewis downstairs in our venue. He's going to be looking at obviously from a live audio production perspective. All will be answering any of your questions at the end of the day, at the end of each of their sessions rather, and yeah, they're all going to be as good as this one was. And so thank you again for all tuning in. Thank you, Kerry, for the questions and stuff like that. Again, Ben, thank you. One quick little roll of the excellent.
Cool. Alrighty. Yeah, so cheers, guys. We're going to go to a short break, and then yeah, we'll be joining Aaron as well.
Hello everyone. Just take this off so you can hear me better.
So yeah, I'm coming to you live and direct from S3 in Skerritt Studios. This is probably one of my more preferred rooms in Skerritt for working creatively and getting my ideas together, because everything's within reaching distance. You know, on this side you've got a lot of hardware, and everything in here has got everything you need in the box to get really creative, really. So it's like, this is one of my preferred rooms. Just show you what I'm going to be working on today. So I'm going to be working on Ableton Live. I've got a little session set up here, just to show my own workflow and how I get my creative ideas together. I'm going to be using the push 2 and just a little MIDI keyboard, and yeah, so let's get started. So what I like to do when I'm starting ideas, because it's great that you know, a studio like this has got so many sound options, and it can be really inspiring, but I'm sure a lot of producers know that it can be quite daunting as well when you've got sort of too many sounds at your disposal and too many spices that you can use. So it's like, for me, it's good to set a little, I'm trying to create a little vibe first before I start building. So for that reason, in my session here, you'll see the top right corner, I like to have a vibe section. So I'm just trying to create a bit of atmosphere. Something I like to use that is now, I think people call it Foley. I just kind of call it traffic noise, or sometimes I like to use like police radio and stuff like that. It's kind of, I like melancholy sounds mixed with like real world stuff, and that sort of really gets my juices flowing. So what I'm going to start with today is just some traffic noise, and this is just a sound that I've downloaded off Splice, and it's just a starting reference really. Sometimes I might take that out after, and sometimes it works, so I'll leave it in there. So I'll let you hear this. Turn that metronome off. So yeah, it's basically just road traffic noise. I've put a filter on it, just the standard Ableton auto filter, so I can mess around with it. You know, it might come in handy later when we're thinking about dynamics. Just little subtleties, opening and closing a filter can do a lot for dynamics. Then after that, what I like to do is get a constant, something constant. So that can be like a drone sound, or, you know, an arpeggiator that's just doing one chord. Reason I like to do that is because, again, possibilities are endless. So what I like to do is sort of lock myself in and put some rules in place, so that then I can build on top of it, and I know what I'm doing, and just limit the possibilities a little bit more. That's how I like to work. So what I've got up here, sorry, I should talk about the stuff that I've been using a lot recently, and luckily, obviously Skerritt have all this stuff available. This is what I use in my own studio as well. A lot of the Arturia plugins are great, and I found Modular V3 up from Arturia, the Berliner patch, and let's just show you how it sounds. So straight away, that's inspiring to me. I've put a little filter on this as well. You'll probably see that's common occurrence. I put filters on a lot of stuff. The reason I do that as well is because I'm trying to like give myself options while I'm building. So I want to be able to open filters out and move elsewhere, to move into different sections. At the minute, I'm just really trying to get ideas down, but I think options is a really, you know, it's always good to have options. Where am I going to take this later? So that's how I'm starting out. I've got this just doing a constant, basically just playing an A. So this is gonna, this piece that I'm doing now is going to be in A minor. Simple, all white keys. Just to keep it basic for me, really. So then I want to play around with chords then. So I've got a nice piano up from Arturia, like an old, you know, piano you'd find in an old pub. It's got a bit of character to it. Let's just see what these sounds sound like. So to me, that's starting to get vibey already, so that's what we're looking for, aren't we? We're looking for vibes. So literally just 2 chords as well. I like how that sounds. I'm leaving myself options for bass, because your bass can really determine where it's going. It obviously change its character of chords because you're adding other elements to that chord as well. So I want to leave myself options for that, not make this too complicated in the, you know, because we ain't got much time either. So put some chords in, you know, that's starting to feel like it could be something. So I'm going to move on quickly now to drums, and I like to just get a basic drum idea. Down. So what I've done is I've loaded up some sounds that I like to use. And here we go. Where's that gone? Let me see. Okay. Saying that, I seem to have lost my drums, so that's good. So what we're going to do on the fly. Oh, here we go. It is. Me being stupid. So here's the sounds that I've got. Simple, basically got 6 sounds. So I just want to create, for this, it's at 120 BPM. So I'm just going to do a little 4 on the floor and see how that makes me feel, basically. And then we'll see if we're in the right area, right genre. So, you know, nice kick. I've got like a lower kick that I've just rolled the top end off a little bit, so it's just a little bit more like a ghosted kick. I've got a more, that's, you know, it's got a lot of attack on it, that one. I'm probably not going to use that one. Got a little hi-hat shaker there that I've just rolled off the attack on it. So you're kind of cutting off the start of the sound, so it makes it a little bit more, it's smoother to me. So I don't really want a chicky sound, I just want like a nice shaker sound. And then I've got some nice effects there as well. Oh, and also I've got a snare, so we might get a bit crazy and throw a snare in there as well. Cool, so I just like to set things moving and then program in my kick. We're just going to go 4 on the floor, so to me that's, you know, I'm liking that. I like that as an idea. So let's try the classic offbeat hi-hats with that as well. Cool. So really basic, just kick on the on-beat and hi-hat on the offbeat. With the vibe you've sort of created before, that creates a lot of movement, and that's, I feel like now we can start layering things on top and starting to make it a track, really. So another thing that I like to do is just use little ambient sounds, like, you know, I've just cut this down a little bit because it were a little bit long, but just, if you can hear this. And then the other thing I like to do is put in like ghost kicks before and after the main backbeat sort of thing, so that creates a bit of movement as well. Like artists that I really like, people like Kiasmos and people like this, it's really ambient stuff, but it moves. It's not in your face, it's not pumping, but it's, well, it is pumping, but it's not like it's got loads of attack on it. It's just subtle, but it really makes everything move. So I'm just going to add a little bit of ghost kick to this as well. Let's record that in. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we've got a little bit of movement in there. And let's add in this sound. If you can hear that. Let me turn that up a little bit. So it's subtle, but it's there. Cool. So some other things I like to do, as well as, you know, keeping it basic, adding other percussion loops as well, because I think like it's important to use real world sounds, like record your own percussion. But again, in the interest of time, I've got a few things that I've already got recorded here. So I'll add some layers on and see what works. So I've got some classic 1 to 8 loops that I've obviously, Ableton's going to time stretch that for me to 120. So let's see how this sounds with it. So now we're adding a little bit of shuffle to what we're doing, and it's, you know, again, I'm thinking about options. I'm thinking, what can I bring in and out? See what changes this makes to our drum part. So we can take that out, it leaves a lot of space there. So we can think filters opening maybe and this coming in. Then we can have bass coming in as well. So I'm just going to do one little trick that I like to do to layer up my drums. Just show you here what I've got. I've got a microphone set up. So what I like to do, again, talking about Foley, to me it seems like a little bit of a buzzword when I go on Splice and stuff. People are looking for atmospheric sounds. But something that I like to do is get anything that makes it that you can just jingle around, like even getting pebbles at the beach, and or even the sound of waves and stuff like that. That can add all little textures to your music. I like layering them sounds up with drums. So what we're going to do here, I'll just move to my screen. We're going to record in some of me jangling my keys about, basically. So let's set that running. Cool, that's enough of that. Right, and then what we can do with this is, so we've got this audio from the keys. We can take that and throw it into Ableton's simpler instrument. So if I bring a MIDI track up, if it wants to work for me. There you go. So if I bring a MIDI track up and drag in my audio from here, if it wants to work for me, into simpler, and then what we're going to do is slice it, so it slices it in where it sees the most you know, prolific transients, if that's a correct term. But what it means is now I can pull in MIDI from anywhere and it'll trigger off that sample where it's chopped. So I'm going to bring in my drums, and then let's just see how the key sample sounds on its own. So, you know, to me that's something you can latch onto on its own. So let's see what it sounds like with the drums as well. That's cool. To me that's cool. That's like a sound that not everybody's going to get, because, you know, everybody ain't got your set of keys. But it's a good creative idea to make your drum sounds a little bit different, and people are like, what, how has it got that little jingling with every sound? So that's a cool little idea I like to use. I'm going to leave it as it is so I can move on a little bit. But, you know, there's all sorts you can do with that. Transpose it, you can change the fade in, fade out of it. You can add effects, obviously, you can add your own effects to it and make it as mad as you want to make it. So, but I'm going to leave it as it is for now, and then move on to a little bit, usually put a little bit of low end in my tracks, and then move on to adding like vocal samples and stuff like that. But everything I'm doing here is completely in the box. I'm not having to move at all. Obviously, I can go and use hardware stuff, but you know, when I'm starting to get ideas down, I really want to be just focusing on in the box stuff, as I've got very little hardware here, but it's giving me everything back that I need. So we'll move on to bass. So I've got a few patches up here, as you can see. A dirty sub which is always nice. Anything dirty, anything subby. This is a standard Ableton instrument as well, so let's just see how that sounds. Take us. Hey. So that's nice. So let's turn them keys down. Absolutely. Oh, my bad. Let's get rid of that. Forever. Cool. Just really simple ideas. So that feels good to me. It's almost like I've done that before. But really simple ideas. I'm not trying to do anything mental here. No mad bass lines just yet. They all can be changed later. I'm just trying to build something that I know can turn into something even more special than it is. Right now I'm just in creative phase. So I just want to stay creative. Like, I'm not doing much EQing. I've already put a little bit of EQ on some things, but I'm not really putting much, I'm not putting any other effects on anything really at the minute, apart from the standard reverbs and delays that are already set up on your session. So we'll bring that bass in, see what that sounds like. So now that's giving it a nice little bit of low end. It's not too much. It's not like a constant sub all the way through it. There's space there as well. That's all I'm looking for at the minute. Cool. So, other sounds, maybe other leady sounds would be good at the minute to sort of give it a bit more character and let the listener know what it is you're trying to do, what genre this is. So again, Arturia, stuff I like to use quite a lot. I've got the Prophet V, and I've got a patch up called Fascination. So let's see how that sounds. And I've also, as you can see here, I've got an arpeggiator on it as well that's doing like a triplet feel. I like doing triplet feel stuff because when you use a triplet arpeggiator without any other pulse that's showing you what the feel of this track is, people's ears pick up on. So I'll just play this on its own for you. That's not it at all. I'll tell you what, we'll use this one because I know this one's good. So people can pick up that that's maybe the pulse. Then when you bring drums in with that as well, it's like it totally shifts your mind to where the pulse is. So if I bring the drums in, now you've got that off. Cool. So I'm going to use that idea as well. And let's see how that's sounding together now. If you unmute things. So we're basically using, we've got 5 or 6 instruments at the minute, and to me that's really moving somewhere. Maybe we can add some more chords later. We can add other things as well, but that's a nice basis for what we're trying to achieve here. So another thing that I like to use quite a lot is vocal samples, and there's a lot of things that are important to know about using vocal samples. There's like the legalities of using vocal samples is an interesting world in itself. So as part of this course, Entrepreneurial, it's important to know about these sorts of legalities in music as well. So obviously not all you can't just get a Donny Hathaway vocal sample and use it on an hip-hop track and put it out and then make money from it. It's not how it works. But some of the sites that I like to use, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of these, are Splice. That's a really popular one. I really like finding vocal samples from there and doing weird things to them. And then also there's a site called TrackLib I like to use as well, and they take care of all legalities of clearing samples and stuff, so you know that they're going to be safe to use. So I'll show you a couple of things that I've got just to add a little bit of, it's like adding icing on your cake, like it's just some nice little flashes that make people like, whoo. So let's see what I've got loaded up here. I've literally as well just used Ableton's sampler. Sometimes I like to use things like Serato sample. There's some other stuff that you can do in there that I've sort of got used to, but you know, Ableton's sampler and simpler is really good. There's tons of stuff you can do with it. So I've just chopped up a few bits in the interest of time, but I'll show you what they are on their own. So
take your time, baby, just a little closer.
Yeah, so I've got that, and I've also got to me, them kind of things, I just want them to be like felt, and it adds a little bit of texture to things. So I've loaded them up into simpler. So let's just have a play around. To me, this is like I'm building up to this point to have a little bit of fun. So now I can have a little bit of play with the sounds I've got, and it's basically just playing, just seeing what you can find. I mean, to me that's cool. I'm gonna pitch that up just so it cuts through a little bit more. So at the minute you can see that I've got it detuned 12 semitones, so semitones. So that's you know, going to be a lot lower than it is. So let's see what this sounds like. So I'm sure we can find some little cheeky bits to throw in there. So it can be that quick to just, you know, Ableton does a lot of work for you. It's just finding quality sounds to work with and just being a little bit fearless, just trying stuff. So I've got another vocal sample, the closer, the take your time, baby, just a little closer. So I'm going to use that one as like more of a main sound. So you've got all those glitchy little high-end things, and then, you know, I like messing around with vocal samples, so I'm going to do it as much as possible. Then I can take things away. So I'll just try a little bit with this other one I've got. So I've just chopped this across. Not even got many chops on this one. I've literally just got 7. And most, to be honest, most of them I'm not going to use. So let's do the same thing again and see what we can come up with. See, that to me, that's a nice little idea. It's a nice little motif that you can keep coming back to, so I'm just going to record that in.
Just a little closer. Just a little closer.
Hey.
Just a little closer. Just a little closer.
So I think there were probably one of them that were good, but the good thing I like about Ableton is, you know, I'll leave things running for whatever, 8 bars, 4 bars, but then I'm literally doing the same thing over and over there. So what I can do is just hone in on the one that were right. See how that sounds.
Just a little closer. Just a little closer. Just a little closer. Just a little closer.
Yeah, so to me that's like really basic ideas, but it's, you know, you start dropping things in and out of that, and and you can really start building arrangement. Obviously, I've just been working in this view on Ableton because I'm just trying to get ideas down at the minute, but obviously then you can move on to this, start arranging, start really piecing it together. So I'll just try dropping a few things in and out and see how it sounds. Cool.
Just a little closer. Just
Drop
a
that one out.
little closer. Just a 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 little closer.
Yeah. So basically, you know, get your simple ideas together. I hadn't had to move from this seat once, and with, you know, there's a potential track there. I'll show you a little sneak preview and a little bit more work that I've done on that as well, because it's like that simple idea can then be, you know, there's so many facilities in here that, you know, you can take it into different rooms, and there's more things available in different rooms. And the other thing for me is as well is like being able to collaborate with other people. So Lewis, who's going to be doing a session later, we've worked together on a lot of music, and it's that is there, you know, you can take advantage of there being loads of other creative people here as well. So that's a really good thing. It doesn't just have to be you sat in here on your own. This is a big studio that, you know, you can have people vibing and like adding things to what you're doing. So I really like working this way. So that's a really good thing for me. So this is kind of a bit more when we've added a little bit more stuff to it. Good. So yeah, you can see from that it's like you can start building things up then. So I just like to keep things really simple and then build from that. But yeah, I think we're gonna have a bit of a Q&A session now if there's anybody's got any questions.
Yeah, so what kind of studio are you in now and why do you like it? So you mentioned you didn't move.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is S3, which is named after the Avid console here that I've got in front, which is, you know, a great mixing desk, which I've not used because I'm kind of doing more of a creative thing. But as well as that being in here, I love being in here because there's just everything you need within arm's length. So it's nice to be able to book this room out, and you know, everything I'm using here, I've lent it from Skerritt, and it's all set up and great, and it's just there's nothing getting in the way of your creativity. It's everything's there for you. So yeah, that's why I like using this studio.
Yeah. So are you a musician and producer? Also, do you have any advice for producers looking to break out of their bedroom?
You know what, I don't feel like it's I get that in two ways, like breaking out of your bedroom, like getting more people to hear your music, but you know, there's so much can be done in your bedroom now, you know, in small studios, and there's a lot of different small suites in this place that you can use. But I'd say that it's just like trying to stick to your guns of what it is that you want to make, and being fearless to just put it out on platforms like SoundCloud and trying to get a bit of feedback from it. And also maybe getting out and playing live and playing your music to people as well. And that's going to be the best thing to do. And just meeting people knowing you are going to like know what you do and then want to collaborate with you, and that brings itself opportunities. So just trying to meet new people through your music, I think that's the best thing to do. And if you believe in it, it's not an hard sell. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Perfect. What types of sounds do you look for when searching for samples?
What types of sounds do I look for when searching for samples? Do you know what? I just look for things that, like, I do a lot of making hip hop as well, and a lot of that is like sampling either from vinyl or like from track clip or even YouTube, just ripping audio from YouTube. And I'm just looking for something that it moves me a little bit, because I'm just trying to make something that is going to move somebody because it moves me. Like, that's what I mean about it not needing to be complicated and not needing to know where it's going to go eventually. It's just like, does this make me feel a certain way? And if it does, then just trust that you're going to work it out and put things where they need to be. That's kind of all I did with those vocal sample. It's like, I like what he's saying. Take your time, baby, just a little closer. That sounds like a hook to me. And then the little vocal choppy bits, they've got a nice vibe to them. So it's just like, trust your instinct to just use them in the right way. So I just look for something that moves me a little bit.
Yeah. What's your approach when programming drums?
My approach when programming drums is basically what I did there. Really, it's like I'm creating some texture and trying to be inspired about what direction I want to go in. And I know I'm a drummer first and foremost, so it's really easy for me to just be like, quick, I'm going to move on to drums and get something down. But I really try to take my time with that and like keep it simple to start with, and then always leave space to add layers and not try to get overly complicated too quick. But again, just good solid sounds that you don't have to do too much work on. And obviously, there's millions of sample packs out there, and you can create your own sounds in Operator Synth on Ableton. That's a big thing that I learned when I was studying here as well, is how to make my own sounds. So yeah, again, just something that inspires me, keeping it simple, so there's room for variation and room for expanding on simple ideas. So that's it.
Yeah, that's it from me too.
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. This has been fun and scary at the same time, but all good things in life are. So next up, we've got Danni Skerritt, and he's a good friend of mine, and he'll be a good friend of yours, and he's going to be doing a live DJ set for you. Thanks very much.
Yes, how are we all doing? Welcome to another Experience Spirit. I've just been handed over by my good friend Aaron. I hope you enjoyed what he was doing. Today I'm gonna take you through a bit of this DJ room. This is our Pioneer room. I'll change the view for you as well, so you can have a little look at what is going on. So, like, before I get started, I'll throw you what we've got here. So, first of all, we've got the mixer, 4-channel mixer, and like to hear what's going on in each ear, you've got your cue buttons right there. Also, if we work our way out, we've got, well, before we work our way out, we have the virtual DJ, which is Skerritt. That's what we've got in this room. We've also got another DJ room, and in that room, we use like other software, like virtual DJ softwares. So after we move across, now we've got the CDJs. These ones are CDJ 2000s. So like, if any of you still use CDs, but like you can also use like USBs with this as well. And if you've got like hard drives, you can attach that up too. Also like these days as well, I usually, if I were to DJ and not do a live thing, I'd probably have like three going on, so I could like have 3 tracks and blend between all of them. The kind of like DJ or like producer that I am is like the sort of person who I like to blend stuff together. I love to use like acapellas, I like to do mashups, I like to do all that kind of thing. A lot of people, like a lot of my friends as well, a lot of my colleagues, they're a lot of like into beat matching and such like that, but the sort of music I make is more experimental and bass heavy, and which means like a lot of it doesn't have a standard BPM, or the BPM will like, and that's beats per minute, and that means like the standard BPM is changes and fluctuates throughout the tracks. So that being said, using that sort of like beat matching technique will work on a few of my tracks, but maybe not all of them. But yeah, first of all, I just wanted to give you a bit of a brief rundown on what's going on here. So on the outside, we've got the turntables. I'm not sure if any of you are using turntables, but like if you are, these are pretty good, and they've got different tempo ranges as well, from like 50 to 16 to 8, and it's really easy to use. You can just click up, click down, and you can move across here to change the speed. That's putting it on, and then like say I want to go from like, I'll give you a bit of sound of this, and then like say I wanted it faster. So like that sort of sound, I use that sort of sound as like a sample. So when I'm doing a track, I'll like drop it within another track. So like that's the kind of stuff I like to do, like blend different like samples with like different tracks at the same time. So like usually maybe someone would like listen to a certain sound and they'd just listen to it, but like I'm always listening to, oh, all right, maybe I could sample that, maybe I could use that for something else. But yeah, I've talked quite a bit, so I'm going to show you a couple of things, and each time I'm just going to drop out and then show you something else. Anyway, as I said, what I do is like bass heavy, so yeah, let me know if I'm too loud. Here we go.
when I rise early this morning. I see love in front of me. Yo again, when I rise early this morning, I feel joy inside of me. Yo again, well it not take nothing at all. Feel the king, him bless me now what me doing. It not take nothing at all. Feel the king, tell us see the king of all kings. It not take nothing at all. Feel the king, him bless me now what me doing. It not take nothing at all. Feel the king, tell us see the king of all kings. Yo, what it takes a son to gain the world and lose the soul. Tell them it's a prophecy, it have been fulfilled. Such a broke coffee and foul. To the young and the old, the blind and the dumb, the eye can be meek, the weak and be strong, the weak and be strong, the weak and be strong, the weak and be strong. Well, it not take nothing at all. Feel the king, him bless me now what me doing. It not take nothing at all. Feel the king, tell us see the king of all kings. It not take nothing at all. Feel the king, him bless me now what me doing. It not take nothing at all. Feel the king, tell us see the king of all
Your
kings.
imagination. He's pretty good, and he's ready to blow your mind.
Cool. That was just a quick little intro of like a bit of like what we do here as well. The last bit that I want to show you, I know like time's running away. Next bit I want to show you is pretty much like just like blending different tracks to like make one track and using acapellas. So let's go here. So straight away we've got an acapella. Give me one more. Get this acapella.
Danny, can you keep the top view mostly?
You and I.
So
like the ripple of the wind.
this is an acapella.
Like only liars do. Way to make love to you.
Can you keep the top view mostly?
Top view.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Baby, be mine. Be mine.
So like over here, this is where the acapella is, and then I'm gonna try and I'm gonna combine it with an instrumental, and then you'll see how I use both of them together. Okay, so go now. Here we go. Get to the place I want it to, of course. Classic. Cool. Here we go. So I've got it. Alright, here we go. going to blend them together. Right, guys, just wondering, so what happened during, stop this for a moment. So like, what happened during this was we had a few different elements. We had it coming through one CDJ over here, then we had another part of that track over here. So like, I've got different stems dotted all over. Well, I've got different parts of like the track dotted on like three different, catch me breath, I've dotted on three different CDJs, and I was using like a full track of like that more like bass reggae sound like on this particular turntable, and I was combining that with like a bit of Fatboy Slim, also a few other like little bass line little naughties that we've cooked up before today. So yeah, like I hope that's a good little measure of kind of what we'd be going through. So I'd be looking not just for people to like beat match, but we'd be looking for like how creative you can be with it. So, you know, put yourself in it, like maybe you're a producer as well, like put your own spin on things, really. Like, and I think that's the big thing about like DJing or like performing. It's like, it's doing it, but putting yourself into it. And with that, you're going to get a lot more people buying into not only the sound that you make, but like you as an individual. And yeah, and I guess like that's pretty much like all that I wanted to show you straight up. Turn me on now, sweet. So so yeah, have we got any questions for me?
Do you just DJ or do you produce as well?
So DJ, or do I just produce as well? So I started producing first. Like that was my main like my main love. But then I've always had like a lot of DJ friends, and also like a lot of my family DJ as well. So it was one of those where I think it was just a matter of time before I got into DJing and using like my old man's decks and doing all that carry on as well. But yeah, I'd say that being able to DJ as well gives me a lot of creativity when I'm like blending and like sampling and doing things like that. Like I just love the feeling of DJing, and like, you know, it's clearly a great workout. But yeah, so yeah, like DJing and music production, that's where I'm at.
Do you use this kit only?
Okay, so like this particular kit is like high-end kit. Like if every venue that you went into had this sort of kit, you're gonna do well. But yeah, like when I'm at Skerritt, this is the main like studio that I like to use, because look at it. It's like, look at it. It's got everything, and you know, it's got ports as well. So if you've got any hardware or anything like that, you can bring it in, and you can like connect up. So you can have a bit of a jam as well. Not only can you like play like recorded tracks, like tracks which you DJ out, but you could like, you know, put a little MIDI keyboard on the side and like play a little bit, or you could have a sampler on the side or a drum machine, and just add to it to make your set stand out. But yeah, and this is the best place to be kitted out for it, because it's got that many places that you can plug into. So it means that it's very versatile as a room. So yeah, this is where I'm at, this room.
What DJs have inspired you to do what you do?
So I was talking earlier about like beat matching and stuff like that. So the sort of DJs that I like are DJs who don't really do that. So like Fatboy Slim, DJ Crush, DJ Shadow, DJ Yoda, like all those sorts of like Mr. Scruff, all those sorts of like DJs, like they use like creativity rather than like every beat needs to blend into every beat. Like sometimes they'll like cross genres, sometimes they'll slow down like the BPM, which is like at 174, and they'll bring it straight down to like 90, and like, you know, that's not normal, you know, that goes against all rules apparently. And like I love the way that these guys will like create. Another person who does like great stuff like that is Mary J. Cole. Like she's like she's incredible when she does that sort of thing as well. She can just create and like and make a track like on the fly, and like make something which sounded like one way sound completely different. And I like that, and that can be through like her like genre hopping, or just like transitioning from track to track to track, rather than like beat matching everything. It makes it like a lot more interesting, in my opinion.
Do you have any advice for other DJs who are looking to break into the industry?
So advice for DJs breaking into the industry, I just say, think things are a lot different now, in the way that like if you're a good producer and you can DJ, that will give you a leg up like immediately, because it's great when someone can make tracks and they can also DJ their own tracks. But like I'd say, if you're just looking to DJ, you just need to master the craft, and like people will want to book you, will want to like do things with you. rather than, so I'd say there's two ways you can come at it. There's probably more, but like for me, there are two ways. You come at it as a straight DJ and your like track selection is outrageous, and when you play out, your sets are fun, they're engaging. And like the second way is if you're a producer where your sets are pretty good, but you've got these few tracks which you've created which people can't wait to hear. That's like half the battle, keeping people on that floor, like keeping people engaged. So I'd say if you're a DJ looking to get into DJing, like think about what angle you're trying to come at it. Are you coming at it as an artist, DJ and producer, or are you coming at it as like a DJ who knows their tracks, knows their genre, knows how to make things sound great on the fly, and is really good at performing the tracks that they've got. Know your tracks, that's a big one. Know your tracks before you play them out. Sweet.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. I hope you've enjoyed it. Like if you've got any questions or anything like that, if you want to catch up with me, I'm sure you can get in touch with Skerritt Studio and then we'll sort something out. But now I'm going to pass you over to the lovely Lewis Jones, who's going to be in the live venue and he's going to be taking you through live sound. So take it easy. Hope you enjoyed it as well.
Hi everybody, welcome back to our Skerritt Studios virtual experience. My name is Lewis. I'm a studio assistant here and also a sounding engineer and producer in my own right, my own self. We're currently here in our Charlie Jones live venue. It's a really great big venue space for learning live sound, really. I'm just going to explain some of the equipment that we have in the room, and then we're going to have a quick demo including a live drum kit, live guitar and live bass, and we're going to have a quick mix of that using this, and then hopefully you go on to hear that both on these cameras and also a direct line out of this desk, so it will sound quite close and quite recorded, I suppose. So first off, I'm going to use this, which is a Soundcraft VI1 live sound desk. It's really, really great. I've not used it a whole bunch, to be honest. I know this one quite a lot, but what time I have had on this is amazing. It's so intuitive. It's really, really nice. Tempted to say maybe the best one we have in this room, but other people may disagree. There's also two Allen Heath SQ6s, which you won't be able to quite see. There's a Midas Pro 2, a Behringer X32 producer just behind this camera. Over at Monitors World, which again you won't quite be able to see, there's a Midas M32 as well as another SQ6 and a Allen Heath analog mixing monitor console, which is really great but doesn't get used all that much because of, you know, digitalness. Cool, so in this room there's also a D&B point source PA system, as well as a small line array system, which for this room is massive. It's really, really nice. We've got a drum kit that comes in here. This whole room comes with its own microphones. It's got a whole array of sort of live equipment, wireless microphones, wireless packs, all that kind of stuff. We've got two orange cavern heads for guitars, and there isn't a bass in here currently, but we do have one in here today. So I think what we're going to do next is I'm just going to go up, stand on the stage, I'm going to show you what we have on the setup, and we'll go through the sort of microphones that we're using on our drum kit, our bass, and our guitar. So we're going to go over there and I will suddenly appear. Cool, hopefully you can see me and hear me. So this is the stage. Like I say, we've got both our amps here. We're not using this amp. Got a bass amp, and then what I'm going to go through in a bit of detail is this drum kit here. So I'm going to start off. It's a very simple drum kit. It's got a nice simple setup, which is very useful. Down here at the bottom, we have a Shure Beater 91A. It's flat, doesn't look like any other microphone, but for kick drums, it's unrivaled, sounds great. On the outside here, if you can see this, there is a Shure Beater 52. If there was a front skin on this drum kit, then it would sit in the hole, hopefully, if it had a hole. Obviously there's no front skin at the minute, so you can see right through it, so it's just kind of placed on the edge of the outer ring here, which is quite nice. So, next up on our snare, we have a Shure SM57 on the top. Underneath it, which you won't be able to see, but it's the same as this microphone here, it's a clipped-on Sennheiser E604. So the same as this one, same as on the floor tom, if you can see that. On our hi-hat, which is set underneath the hi-hat, is a ATM 4060, I think, or 460 rather. And then on the top here, we have a large diaphragm, overhead microphone. We're just going to go mono just for the sake of this, because we only have a small room. This is an ATM 4040, I believe. That's the sort of general drum kit setup. I think this is sort of box standard for most drum kits, microphone-wise, that you'd use. There's only 3 condenser microphones, the rest are all dynamic, so it makes things quite easy. There should be as least still as possible, and I suppose as least stands as possible. There's only 4 up here, because I think in a live situation you want less stands. If you can clip stuff on, then it's so much easier. There's some wiring that's happening, and it's not the tidiest, but it will do for now. So on our bass amp, we have a Sennheiser E602, which comes from the same drum pack that these microphones do. That's just sat in the middle of the cone on the bass amp, and then on the back of here, on this Fender Rumble, there is a direct out, which basically acts just like a DI box, and that's just coming straight out of the back, clean signal out of the back of the amp, going straight into our PA. So then over to our guitar, we've got some pedals coming in, but there is just a Sennheiser E606, which is sat on that top right-hand cone over there, sat right in the middle. Those microphones are very much like an SM57. It's basically the same style of microphone. It's just flat, so I suppose it's a lot easier for guitars because they can sit flat like that. So that's a general kind of setup. If there's any questions about this specifically, that's fine. Quickly, on this stage here, you won't quite be able to see them, but we have 4 monitor mixers running across all the front, and there's one at the back. There was also one over the side of monitors over there, if we had a monitor engineer. So that's kind of our stage, really. I'm going to go back to the VI1 now, and we are going to start soundchecking our drums, and hopefully you guys can hear the differences in the microphones and how we'd approach mixing a drum kit and then a band. So let's go and do that. Cool, so I'm back over here at our VI1. So we're going to start off with our wonderful drummer Aaron, who you obviously saw before. He's going to start hitting our kick drum. I can talk to him through this microphone here, if you can see this, and he can hear me anyway, so it's okay. So if you can give me a kick. what I did there is I started off with both of these kick drums. So we had the first one was the kick in, which sounds, in this specific kick drum, it sounds quite boxy almost, which is strange because there's no front skin on it. But taking out a bit of the low end there, around 50 Hertz. It's not my favourite sounding microphone. I actually anticipated the Beta52 on the front of it to sound potentially worse and maybe less usable. But while I was mixing that, I think that Beta52 actually does sound better. So I'll probably end up using more of that in this mix, and hopefully you'll be able to hear that. Again, I took a bit of the mid-range out of that Beta52. It just wasn't quite sitting right for me. Cool, so if I can get some snare, please. Cool, so again, that was the snare top and then the snare bottom. So the snare bottom sounds very crackly, obviously that's where the snares are on the drum, so it's very toppy. I've taken a bit of the top end out of that, and also some of the low mid of the main snare drum. That snare drum sounds really tight anyway, so honestly I probably could have done not much to that and it would sound great. I'm also going to add a bit of a drum plate to that snare drum, and hopefully you'll be able to hear that. So can you just send me one hit or two hits of the snare? Which sounds very nice. Cool, so if we move on to our hi-hat, please. Straight to the rack and floor. Orders rack first, please. So, with all of these three, the hi-hat is quite self-explanatory. You don't have to do too much to it, but it does have a lot of bottom end, just from that microphone picking up the air of when he's hitting it and when the hi-hat's moving. So I've taken a lot of the low end out there. You can see there's a filter on, just taken out most of the drum. With these toms, just for the sake of time, I'm not going to EQ them, but what I have put on both of them is a gate, activated the gate on here, and changed the thresholds a little bit so it works quite nicely for me, but they already sound quite nice because that rack was sounding quite boomy straight off. The floor sounds really good. There's also an overhead in here which I'm not going to have out of the PA system, but you'll be able to hear it so you can hear the whole kit. So I'm going to activate that. Cool, so that is our drum kit. So if you can just play the whole kit a beat for a minute. Awesome. Already sounds really tight. That snare drum sounds incredible. Sounds really nice. Cool. So next off, we're going to move on to our guitar, which is Al, who you saw before. He is now suddenly appeared down here. as well as being a great engineer and works here as well, he's also one of the best guitar players I think I've ever seen, which is, I've seen a lot, he's great. Cool, so if you can give me some guitar, please, Anne. Cool, so with that guitar, I've taken out a lot of the bottom end and then a little bit of the high mids, just to quite harsh sometimes. Cool, so what we're going to do next, I have a wireless system connected to the bass guitar, which is here, and I'm going to play that very quickly, and then we're going to start mixing in us three playing in kind of a band situation. Awesome. So, hopefully this is working. Cool. So I have the bass mic, which is that E602 on the front of the bass. Boomy, but it works quite nicely. I've already EQ'd a bit of the bottom out of this and added on some compression just so it's a bit smoother, because it's quite poppy, this guitar, sometimes. And then if we go for the bass DI as well. Taking out some of the top, taking out some of the middle, and then it's compressed again just so it's a bit smoother. So we're going to add all of this in, we're going to attempt to have a bit of a jam, and then I can sort of explain afterwards what we're going to do. What you're going to hear in the middle is we're going to switch between the sound of these microphones near where I am and then the sound of the direct coming straight out of the desk. So you'll be able to hear quite a difference and quite a, hopefully it will sound like you're here in the room with us. So, shall we? Sure. Great, so hopefully you can hear the kind of difference between those sounds in the microphones here and the closed sound. I think it will obviously sound quite different. If you were here in the venue, it would sound different because of the PA sound, which, if you take my word for it, it sounds really big, it sounds great. Cool, so that's kind of basically this whole demo. I believe we might have some questions. If you guys have any more questions about this, or I suppose live sound in general, send them through on the YouTube chat, and yeah. Good?
So yeah, just a couple of questions. Do you prefer mixing with analog or digital mixing desks for live sound?
So the question, if you couldn't hear it, is do you prefer mixing with analog or digital mixing desks? I learned on analog, which I suppose will be the same for most people in any kind of situation. Maybe not so now, but I think learning on analog is great because you can then learn the workings of everything you have to do yourself. The desk doesn't do anything for you. So I think for learning it's very good, but I think in reality, and for it to be more practical, digital is the way to go, because it just makes things so much easier. It's so much less hassle, especially in a live situation where there's usually time constraints, there's usually potentially more to go wrong, especially in like festivals and stuff like that, where there's quick changeovers and all that kind of thing. So I think on a whole, for live, it would have to be digital, but I do like analog. It feels quite real, I think.
Yeah, perfect. So how does mixing monitors differ from mixing at front of house?
Cool, so how does mixing monitors differ from front of house? I think it will be the main difference is for monitors you're mixing for the artist themselves. They might want to hear different things. They might want to hear loads of themselves if they're, for instance, the guitar player. They might want to hear loads of guitar, not as much vocals or something. So obviously that will differ very differently to, for it being in front of house, being out with the crowd out here, is that you want to make sure they can hear absolutely everything that's happening, or everything that the band wants them to know what's happening. And that will be the main difference. It's kind of different approaches. Obviously, being monitors, it's much more, you need to work with the artist, working with the people. Front of house, it's much more kind of not working for yourself, but you don't necessarily need somebody else to do that job. Do you know what I mean? You can just do whatever you think best, and everyone in the crowd kind of has to take that as as a given, I suppose.
Perfect. So how do you make microphone choices for certain live instruments?
How do you make microphone choices for certain live instruments? I suppose it comes down to what there is at the time, unless you have all the microphones in the world, which I don't think anybody does, maybe. I think, like I said before, on the drum kit there's only 3 condenser microphones, which was the hi-hat, quite a detailed instrument, the overhead that sits on top, again that's trying to capture everything, so it needs to be quite detailed, and then that front kick drum, the BT91, the flat one. The rest of it's all dynamic, so it means that they don't need to be powered, there's no phantom power running through them, they're a lot more durable usually as well. It totally depends. I think for certain things like brass instruments you might want some more condensers, something more detailed, something that's powered, that picks up more, I suppose. But then for guitars that's going to be quite noisy, it's going to be not very delicate usually. They'd usually want something dynamic, and I suppose it's a case of experimenting really and seeing what works best. And it will be very different in a live situation to a studio situation, but you can work that out for yourself, and you will get taught back those kind of things here, and it'll all start to make sense. Cool. Cool? So, what's going to happen next, I hope you enjoyed this, is Adrian, who you saw at the start, he's going to do a bit of a Q&A in here, and you can ask any more academic questions, any more questions about us in general. So yeah, thank you very much, and we shall see you very soon.
Good afternoon, everybody, and hopefully you've had a good afternoon. We have. They're not here, but I'd certainly just like to say thank you again to Al and to Lewis and to Aaron and to Danni and Kerry, who's just actually here out of shot, and Pedro, who's also out of shot. Yeah, it's been really good. I think it's shown a very sort of wide variety of some of the things, a small amount of our studios in comparison with what we've got. It's great to be able to show you the venue. It's a wonderful space to be used by all students, music business students, electronic music production and performance students and live students and everybody. So, but also as a little bit of a kind of relaxed space where we can do things which we do most weeks on a Friday, but on other days kind of these creative sort of spirit events where we kind of get students from different courses in here. So we'll do things like soldering or making synths or having kind of informal classes or networking groups, and we've even had performing. Well, we have lots of performances in here, but we hosted Adelia Derbyshire 50th anniversary here this year, or rather the end of last year. So yeah, it's a brilliant space. So questions, I guess.
Are your courses currently open for clearing applications?
Our courses open for clearing? Yes, they are. All courses actually are open for clearing. And clearing's obviously on now, so if there's anybody who's either in a situation that they find themselves in clearing or even just applying and they're not in clearing, then yeah, we've got spaces available for each course at the moment that we've got. Yeah.
And can you go through a bit more detail on how people apply through clearing?
Well, clearing is a sort of system, so if you're in the UCAS already, if you're already in the application system, then you'll be aware of what clearing is. Essentially, clearing is a period of a year which gets just before where we have degrees begin, where students may not yet have been placed somewhere. That can be all sorts of reasons. It's because maybe you've not placed yourself somewhere, or a university has not given you a return on your offer, but also you know, you might just want to be holding off for a little bit of a while to see where you get to. Obviously grades are sort of coming into, again under normal circumstances, becoming available, so it would always have a bit of an impact. So you'd go through your UCAS application as normal, but because of the time of year that it is, you will automatically go into what is clearing. So the same way that you would find any of our courses, so if you look on our webpage, you'll have our courses, the course codes are on there, etc, 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 and then you just come and find us on UCAS and you basically you know, fill in and you apply, and then we'll go through the same rigorous application process that we go through depending on which courses that you do.
Can you tell us more about the Entrepreneurial Audio Production course?
Yeah, we really, this is a great course. This is a brand new course which courses take a while to kind of validate, which incidentally I have to say that our degrees are validated by a great university, UCLan, and they provide us with the validation and the means to be able to do all of our degrees. And so we went through a process of understanding the industry and where it's at and where it's more importantly going to be at in the future. And so for us, entrepreneurial audio production kind of looks at producers who are possibly and more probably already producing, but they might also be kind of entrepreneurial. So much can be done from a bedroom. Albums can sell exceptionally well from being made inside bedrooms. Scores for television, for film, for radio, for video games, all sorts of things can be done what we would call sort of in the box or out of the box. So whilst there's still always a massive need, have you seen upstairs with the possibilities on the desk upstairs, the Neve desk with Al earlier on, is that the use of desks is always with us, but it's not always within everyone's grasp. You know, that thing weighs tons, and any desk weighs a lot. So the idea that we can be in our comfort of our own homes, our bedrooms, etc., and creating music, we can distribute ourselves. So the EAP course teaches you to be the all-rounder. So it's not only is it teaching you the actual audio production, but it's also teaching you more things in depth about how you would go about looking at monetizing your music without necessarily having to go down a record label, or you could make your own record label, or distributing your own music. How does it work? How does sync work? So it's kind of music production, audio production, but it very, very much also concentrates on you being the entrepreneur. Now, you know, everybody's not an entrepreneur, but that doesn't mean to say that you can't do that course, because it means that essentially anybody has a social media account, for instance. So how do you use your social media? So it's kind of this very, very forward-looking course. It's extremely unique. I think our approach to it and the way that we've looked at it and the way that we are delivering it in the studios with a combination of the music business side of things, it's a perfect fit for the future. It's a great fit for the future, and it starts this year, this September. So yeah, I'm exceptionally proud that we've got this one starting in September, just as we all are. We've got some great teaching on it, and some very, very good plans for networking and growing connections, and how you grow connections, and all of the soft skills that you kind of look at and need as an entrepreneur.
What is September learning going to look like in Dublin?
September learning is going to look very good. We've got the reality is, of course, the situation that we have all found ourselves in, but at the same time, working safely and working with balance, and obviously working within the law and working with what everybody wants, which is what our students want. And those who are starting with us this year, that's what they want. They want that face-to-face. So we're providing face-to-face, and we'll be providing it safely, obviously, and the measures that we've taken in this building are incredible in order for us to be able to do that. But at the same time, no one must get left behind. And so if we have any existing students or any new students that want to study with us and want to take advantage of the time, because it is actually a good time, then those lessons also can be seen and interacted with from the comfort of your own home. So we're using some of the technology that we've obviously seen with far more camera angles than what we've sort of demonstrated. I mean, GoPros could literally be absolutely all over the building, so there's no reason why you can't and why we won't be able to show close-ups and stuff like that. But then the practical sessions will be in place. Ordinarily, we would have class sizes of around kind of 20, and then we'd have another cohort. All we'll simply do is just remove or reduce the amount of people that are ever going to be sat in one classroom at once. So it's completely practical, it's completely practicable, and it will happen. And yeah, we're excited about it. But at the same time, we have to remain sensible and conscious that, you know, we're in an unprecedented situation.
So I guess off that, can you just go into a bit more detail about the precautions we've taken to make this building really safe?
Yeah, I mean, the precautions that we've made, obviously, I mean, you've seen, you know, I mean, to all the best. I mean, I can't wear a mask now as I'm speaking to you, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be able to hear. Tutors, we've given tutors, obviously, the permission during classroom sessions and studio sessions to remove their masks, which is essentially what we're doing now. But we're asking for people to wear face masks. We're asking people to obviously make sure that they first take care of their own personal hygiene, essentially on a constant basis, so using facilities. But then we are also doing our bit, so constant cleaning. So all kind of materials, door handles, computer desks, keyboards, armrests, chairs, keys, equipment, whether it gets signed in, signed out, how we sign into the building, how we don't sign in, so it minimises contact. We've got soap dispensers now which are automatic in all the toilets. All toilet doors are open, so we can minimise the amount of things. The lift, we ask for people to only be able to use during times when they're moving heavy equipment or through disabilities. And so it's a lot about communication, and it's a lot about all working together, and provided that we all work together, then we'll all do it. There's screens at reception so that we minimise again the contact with people who are most likely to be in contact. Social distancing is obviously something which we take completely of importance, and so social distancing is another thing that we'll have to make sure that everybody sticks to. But we're all in this together, and we'll all come out of this stronger together, and provided that we all do, and we all work with each other, then, you know, it's going to be essentially the strangeness might still be around, but of course it will be a perfectly normal environment of our day-to-day thing to always cleanse our hands, for instance. So we've got sanitizers all over the building. There's certain ways we'd like people to walk and not to walk. We've got chairs marked out in individual places. So yeah, it's along those lines.
Are there any prior qualifications needed to apply for a degree?
Yeah, I mean, essentially a degree is even in creative industries, a degree is a means to be able to travel through a number of years and then to come out of that at the end of that with a degree, which stands for an awful lot. So first and foremost, we need to ensure that you can pass a degree. Certainly we do require qualifications because we require UCAS points to do so, but we also need an interview. So in one instance, if you are over a particular age, then we can take you as what is known as a mature student, and actually qualifications aren't important, so we can look at it in a different way, your creativity. So we certainly wouldn't take anybody who we didn't think could pass a degree. We certainly wouldn't take anybody who we thought would suffer as a result, because that would just not be good for us, it wouldn't be good for you. So there's all sorts of things that get looked at. So yes, on our website it says, you know, you require X amount of points. For each degree is different, and those must be in, you know, English or maths. But there's flexibility. There's always flexibility, and if there's passion, and if there's need, and if there's a desire coming from the student who wants to be part of our great community and wants to learn and wants to go on, then we will address those points on an individual basis. But by and large, so yes, a qualification is needed because it demonstrates. But at the same time, I recognise that some of the brightest people in society don't have any formal qualifications, and so again no one gets left behind, so we have to look at this really, really carefully.
Can you talk a bit about the application process for international students?
Well, international students, so the only international students we can take are those within the EU, so anybody outside of the EU we can't, and we can't because you'd need what's known as a Tier 4 licence. So anybody within the EU we can take, and if you are in the EU now and you're with us on YouTube, then obviously this year starting a degree in the UK, because obviously the other elephant in the room is Brexit. Brexit will mean that unfortunately some students who we ordinarily would have taken in years to come, Italy or Germany or anywhere essentially in Europe, it's going to be very difficult, whereas this year you're guaranteed essentially to be able to get a place with us, and the government will recognise that you are studying a degree starting in September.
How do people apply for funding?
For funding, so funding goes through, so essentially what you're talking about here is funding which is student loans. So student loans is a separate application, so it's a different application to UCAS, but essentially you apply for a student loan at the student finance. They will walk you through essentially what that is and what that means. In addition to that, we actually also offer a bursary, and a bursary is available for all students who fit within a particular criteria, and that is where an income within the household is lower than a particular threshold. And so any student who falls within that category, then we also offer a bursary in addition to that. So most of our students have jobs as well, so in terms of finance, but it's yeah, so essentially it's student loans through the student finance.
Can you talk a bit about the accommodation student, like nearby, that students can access?
Yeah, this city is there's no shortage of accommodation inside the city. Ourselves, as an institution, we do not provide accommodation like most large universities who obviously provide halls of residence. We've got relationships with several places that do that. They often reach out to us, and if anybody asks us, or where can we stay, we can provide you with plenty of information. So the market is obviously very, very big in this city. There's construction absolutely all over the place, and a lot of those are accommodation. So there's different types of accommodation. There's city centre accommodation. There's some of the suburbs around the city which are not too close away. The public transport links are absolutely brilliant. Places like Didsbury, Fallowfield, Rusholme, your sort of traditional places for a lot of students to first kind of land in. It depends on what your circumstances are and how much you can afford, essentially, depends on where you are, but there is literally something for absolutely everybody. And then of course when students get to know one another, then it all changes again, because you kind of make friends here, and then after your first 6 months of being here, then you're likely to want to live with some friends, whether that's 2, 3, 4 of you, or so on. So we find a lot of students tend to start off in accommodation, but then very quickly begin to kind of wish to sort of be with each other in different places.
What DAWs should people be using, or what should they be doing to prepare to come here for uni?
Okay, well, no one should be, so in terms of DAWs, so obviously that's a digital audio workstation. Should is a strange one. I mean, all DAWs do essentially the same thing, but DAWs of different brands do different things. So some DAWs are more traditionally used by people in electronic music, so I'm thinking here of Ableton. I mean, we actually, this venue, we do the Ableton meetups as well, which is really, really cool, once a month, which is absolutely brilliant. So great relationship with Ableton. Cubase, Steinberg, got a really, really good relationship with them. They do something different to what Ableton Live does. Live obviously looks at not only what goes on in terms of production, but also live. Then you've got Pro Tools. Pro Tools is brilliant for audio, and you'll find some of the music production and entrepreneurial audio and live will look at Pro Tools a lot, certainly in terms of post-production and recording audio. Logic, so we've got lots, and it's entirely up to you as to what you are familiar with. I think it's always good to try and learn some of them, of all of them, and then you'll kind of decide which one makes your life the best. But essentially it's all about different workflows doing different things on DAWs. But Ableton right now, I think you can get a 30-day or more free trial, so if you've never used it or if you're not familiar with it, then that's a good opportunity to do that. Lots of people offer light versions. I think Cubase offer a light version as well, and yeah, there's a few out there. We teach them all, or we don't teach them all, but they're on every single machine inside our building, which remind me, I'll come on to the remote desktop if we don't. And so yeah, it's all there for you choosing.
How do students access studios?
Yeah, so we've got plenty of studios. I think we've got more recording studios in here than anyone, which is just brilliant. The recording studios we've got vary on different levels. So on an entry-level studio, absolutely beautiful studios, Audient desks, and they incrementally go up as your skills level do, to where you've just seen Al upstairs, obviously in Skerritt. I think he described it as a spaceship. I think it probably would be a decent description. And so to get to that spaceship, essentially you need to sort of learn to fly over sort of like mini-craft. Students can get access to all of these depending on their year group. So if you're a year 1 student, you won't have access to Skerritt Studios upstairs, for instance. But they get those, you get those, or you will get those through credit systems. And credit systems, we give all students credit. It's free, by the way. And it essentially means that in a studio, for every single week, you get about 15 hours. And depends how you use it. You can actually use it very creatively. And 2 students can combine your hours together so that you've even got more. So I could be in one session and I will have my friend in another session, and then I will join my friend's session, and so we'll get it. So essentially you can book them for a minimum of like an hour, and then, you know, up to a maximum of 4 hours, but if there's 2 of you, you can do it for 8 hours. Studios are used for your own purposes. We are not here to sort of turn around and say these studios are to be used in this purpose. We will help you in whatever purpose you want to use it for, but bringing in bands, so the venue for instance is a bookable space. So if you want to bring in a band when you're skilled and able to use it, then you bring in a band and you can basically arrange for a whole band to come in. The same way as upstairs we've seen Ben, you can arrange for Ben to come in yourself and use that studio and use all of the equipment with it. In terms of the equipment that you've got in the side of studios, what we haven't even touched on is the amount of stuff we've got. Keyboards, microphones, drum machines, samplers. It's enormous, it's absolutely huge, and all of these things are all bookable by students, and they book it whilst they book their studios. The only thing you book with the studio, with the credits, is the studio. If you want particular microphones, you get the microphones. If you want particular keyboards or synths or modular synths, then you book those and they don't come out of your credits. So essentially, there's lots and lots and lots of time for students to use some absolutely brilliant studios here. There's never a shortage of studio time. It's incredible. It's incredible.
That was it. If you want to go into the remote.
Yeah, I think the remote desktop publishing thing the remote desktop technology is a really, really good piece of stuff, and I kind of mentioned it before, and just to try and sort of get over how brilliant it is and unique, I know it's unique, is the fact that I can be sat here right now and I can be sat on a laptop and I can open my laptop and I can log in to a computer which is upstairs in another room inside this building. Once I'm logged into that computer upstairs, I can then access what I would be able to access if I was sat at that computer. So you mentioned DAW, so if I'm at home and I don't have Cubase, I can log in from anywhere, the back of a bus, into one of our machines and start using Cubase. And it's incredible. And so if you think about the amount of plugs that we've got, whether it's Native Instruments, whether it's Arturia, just tons, whether it's instruments or whether it's outboard, it's incredible. So what you've got access to from the back of a bus or a train or a beach is brilliant, and this is really going to help. And so you also asked, what it's going to look like in terms of teaching. And so for those students who feel that they need to be at home and would prefer to be at home doing these lessons, then they can engage. But then that said, any students that here on a face-to-face practical level as well, which is the majority to be honest, then they can then go home after their day and decide to go and log into our computer. It's incredible.
Do you want to just mention an email if anyone has any further questions?
Yeah, two things then. So if anybody's got any further questions, there's two ways. First of all, you can just email us at, Manchester. So Manchester at spiritstudios.ac.uk, and that will be responded to very quickly. Dan Buxton is likely to be the person who will respond the quickest, but whatever it is that your question is, then that will get sent to whoever it is. It might be for me. I mean, you can email me. You can ask me any questions, or you can go through Dan, and Dan can ask me some questions, and I'll answer them. The other thing you can do, obviously, is come into the building. If you'd like to come into the building and ask a question, or even come and sit where I am right now inside the venue, you're welcome. All what will happen is you'll be invited in. We'll send you a guidance document which will outline all of the kind of procedures as to what we'd like you to do in terms of the gel and in terms of face masks and so on and so forth. And you're welcome to come and have a look around. We'll give you a tour around the building. Equally, we can try and do it collectively for a group of people. You could be 2 of you, 3 of you, no problem. No problem at all. So I think that's it. So thank you again for listening. I hope you've had a really pleasant afternoon. I wish you all the very, very best, and hope to see some of you soon in September. And yeah, any questions, get in touch, and yeah, all my very best. Thank you.